It's Mira Business FM. It's the morning drive. It's me, Tim Elliott. Good morning to you. info@mira.fm is the email address to get in touch. WhatsApp is very simple. Type into your browser whatsapp.mira.fm and that will bring up the box. You don't have to remember numbers or save us, or that should work pretty well. Also, we're on YouTube. We're streaming. You can watch again there, and all your usual social channels, you know where they are, wherever you favour, plus wherever you get your podcasts from. Now, executive mentoring, strategic advice, and a lot more executive coaching. I'll ask the gentleman in question in a second. Aidan O'Brien is a globally respected strategic advisor. He's an executive mentor, an international keynote speaker, and Aidan, you've worked with clients across 5 continents. That's great. You've trained nearly 1 million people worldwide, the bio says here. You're smiling. 1 million people, that's a big amount.
I've spoken on stage to about 1 million. So I've been speaking on stage 16 years now. So all over the world, built different businesses from 2010 to 18. And we had some big stages there. 18,000 people in Krakow and Poland and Prague. And then every year, multiple events. Yeah, so the numbers creep up quickly. How many trained perspective? We're probably smaller than that, but it sounds good, at least.
Well, no, it does. I mean, that's one of the reasons it's been so hard to track you down, because, we have to follow you across 5 continents. 1 million people are in front of us. The point of all this is you're pretty busy.
Yeah, and it's funny, I don't like the word busy, but I guess I am. I'm doing things every day for 50 hours.
Why don't you like busy?
I think words actually, they carry so much weight. And one of the things I'm always telling clients is, casualness leads to casualties, right? So if you're casual with your language, it leads to the death of the deal, of your confidence, of focus. Casualness leads to casualties. And I think we're far too casual with language, actually. So the words like need, I don't like. We don't need to do anything. We want or we don't want. We do or we don't do. And busy is just a word people throw out like, yeah, you busy. And I'd say it and I catch myself and I'm still struggling to find a better word to replace it. But
well, I was going to ask you for that. I mean, years ago, I worked for a radio station and we used to interview people and we would say at the end of their spiel, we'd be like, absolutely, and move on. And somebody texted in and said, I'm fed up with you saying absolutely. And they were pretty direct with some quite direct language. Yeah. So there were 2 hosts that both of us said, right, we'll have a money jar there. Whenever we say absolutely, we'll put money in the jar. Yeah. So we did. And after about a week, I don't use the word absolutely anymore. So I get you. And I guess this is one of the things that you harp on is the wrong word, again, using language casually. But one of the things you need to get through to people is focus, isn't it? And
absolutely.
Do what you need to do.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer. I'm a bit of a Trojan horse, actually. I'm kind of known as the leadership, the business growth guy, the strategic guy. But I'm always bringing in really the alignment, the awareness, the clarity. Okay. And I think most people in my kind of world, and even in mainstream personal and professional development, they're telling people to add on things, do this and do this. I'm a big believer in letting go first. I always say stopping the don'ts is more important than starting the do's.
Okay.
We have to figure out what are the don'ts first. We got to create space. Everyone listening here, they don't need more work. They don't need to do more. They don't need some guy come on and say, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do. No, what do we have to stop doing first? And that's the key. Can we remove some of the noise? And most business owners, most leaders, corporate executives, they're just overrun with work, but they're not focused. They're not aligned. They don't know what really moves the needle. They don't have leverage in their actions. And that's why most businesses and people struggle and they stagnate, is because they get incremental growth. I'm a believer in multiplying your business. And I think you can if you identify what to let go of, what to delegate, automate, eliminate, and what moves the needle, what gives us leverage. So that's how we work, or that's how I work around focus in particular, letting go.
So, I mean, make life as easy as you possibly can. And then the issue to me is always, well, you try to do that and you try to, I don't know, set your tasks for the day and run through them and tick them as you go by. But you get pulled all over the place as a busy, I'm using that word again, as a constantly moving executive, don't you? How do you do that?
It's lack of clarity. One of the first things I do in every company, we go in and we redefine the roles. I need to know everyone in the team, everyone in the business, what are they actually doing? Because most people are living off their legacy and their title as opposed to what they actually do best that moves the needle. So again, creating space is the first thing. Are you willing to create space to have this conversation? A lot of guys aren't because they're too busy. They're too busy running. And so that's the first thing. Who's wise enough to create the space? I'm a big believer that we don't know what we don't know. Like, we know what we know, and we know what we don't know. Like, you know you don't speak Chinese, you know you don't play the guitar, you know you don't do this, but you don't know what you don't know. And most executives and most business owners, most founders, their biggest problem is they think they know enough. It's actually all of our problem. We think we know enough as it is, and we don't.
We should recognize that we don't know stuff.
Exactly. And that we don't know what we don't know. And that's the gap, because the gap from where we are to where we want to be is the same gap as what we know and what we don't know, and what we're doing and what we're not doing. People think it's this mystical journey we have to, to figure out, but it's very simple, actually. The closer to truth you get, the simpler it gets. We just have to know there's things we don't know. So, unfortunately, most people give away their time casually. So people will spend years doing the wrong stuff because they think they're going to live forever. But people are afraid to spend money to shorten the time. Whereas I encourage people, spend money and shorten the time. Buy back your time.
It's difficult, though, to do that, isn't it? Because, look, if I give you my time, for me, there's a real kind of lack of arrogance to that. And if I say, look, I just don't have time for you now, I always feel that's a little bit arrogant. A lot of people want to spend time because they feel as though it's, it's a mentoring thing, or they need to do it for the business. But your argument is maybe you probably don't need to. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is you need to shorten the times doing the wrong things.
Still offer it.
So you need to invest money now. You either invest money or you invest time. Most people don't want to spend money because they value money over time. And that's one of the biggest myths of that we're taught since we're kids, that time is money. You heard that, right? Time is money.
I've never believed that, to be honest with you.
But it's not. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Yeah. Because if I gave you $10 million today, you take it, right? If I brought it with me because you're a great host, Tim, I have $10 million for you today in cash. You want it? Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. One caveat, you don't wake up tomorrow. You still want it?
Maybe not.
Maybe not, because time, innately, time is more valuable than money. But as
that
people,
really made the point, by the way.
Yeah, we give away all our time so casually. So what I'm saying is, buy back your time. Don't be afraid to hire the executive assistant or the PA. Don't be afraid to hire someone that you can delegate. Don't be afraid to bring in the right mentor or advisor who can show you. Like, I've been obsessed with this for 20 years, right? I've built businesses for years and all over the world, as you mentioned earlier. All I do is put my ideas in their head. Like, you have expertise already. You're a master at what you do. Put my ideas in your head so we can save time, so you can get your time back. That'll cost you some money, but it'll cost... What it costs to do it is way less than what it costs not to do. Because not doing it, you're going to keep spending time. And also, you're still not doing the right things that are going to help you scale your business as fast as you could.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Do you find in your business that there are, and I ask this because I'm naturally a little bit cynical, but I think there are a lot of people in your profession, and I'm not pointing at you, this is a genuine question. I think there are a lot of snake oil salesmen in your profession. How do you view your profession? Because it's almost intangible in lots of ways,
100%.
isn't it?
I love that you said that. I always say there's quantitative returns and qualitative. And a lot of guys out there selling the quantitative, like make $10,000 a month and get to 6 figures and get to 7 figures. And a lot of what I do, that Trojan horse part, is really qualitative. It is the clarity, it is the certainty, it is the awareness. But, for me, I told you off air, like, I always tell people I'd rather show you what I do than tell you what I do.
You do.
Because I get it a bit cringe. I don't like saying the word coaching and mentoring because there's such a stigma around it. People have there's a stereotype in their mind, and I say, listen, come to one of my events, I'd rather show you, because what I do doesn't fit into that. And the only, I suppose what makes a good mentor, if someone is out here looking for a mentor or a coach or an advisor, you don't have, doesn't matter if it's me, but how do you choose the right one? A mentor or an advisor can only take you as far as they've gone themselves. And most haven't gone that far. So what you want to do is you want to find out who's walked the path actually already, who's gone down the road. That's the person who can guide you. And if they haven't, then they're not worth listening to, in my opinion.
Well, I would kind of echo that, because I look at, I've talked to lots of people who are, strategic coaches, business coaches, life coaches, all those kinds of things. Yeah. And I look at it very cynically. I'll be absolutely honest with you.
Me too.
And it's good to hear, because a lot of the time I think, I don't think you've been through this. I think you've read a book about it.
Exactly. Well, it's funny you said that, because I call that borrowed knowledge. Yeah. And I think that we all you started with borrowed knowledge, right? We all start with borrowed knowledge. Yeah. And then if you will live it enough, it becomes knowing. And that's what you have as a host. How long are you hosting radio and doing things like the broadcasting?
25 years.
25 years. So it's a level of knowing. Like what you can do now with minimal effort used to take you a lot of effort 25 years ago. When you first came in, remembering everything and the mic and the producer. And now you do it effortlessly,
I've forgotten
right?
more than I know.
Exactly.
I'll be honest with you.
And that's the point, though, is that you start with borrowed knowledge, and that's okay to start. I started with borrowed knowledge back in 2008, 2009, building business, figuring things out. But if you live it enough and you walk the path, it becomes knowing. And then that's a different level. And I think you can see very quickly when you listen to someone if it's borrowed knowledge or if it's knowing. And unfortunately today, because of the internet, there's a lot of borrowed knowledge everywhere, a lot of copy paste. And that's again why I said I'd rather show you. Like I built all my business organically. People come to my events or they're referred. I'm only in it for the result. I don't care about motivating you, even though people call me the Irish Tony Robbins. I'm not. He's the American Aidan O'Brien, if you're wondering. But motivate. I don't do motivation. I'm here for a result. I only get paid if we get a result. I'm not interested in motivating you. And again, I always say I'm only looking for people who are looking for me. I'm not trying to convince anyone. You come to my event or you hear me on a podcast or radio like this. If something resonates, it resonates. That's it. But people out there trying to convert people and bring them to their way, that's where the issue lies.
So when did it all start for you? What did you do when you were at school, college, you're a kid, and you thought, right, I'm going to go into this.
Yeah.
This is the career for me. What did you choose then?
Well, actually, school got in the way of my education.
Okay, that's a lot of people.
So when I left school, my education started, and I was running gyms back in Ireland. So you can probably tell I'm trying to neutralise the accent, but I want to keep it because it's good for business, right? But I started in health and wellness, and
well, I stereotyped you when you came in. I said Aidan's going to be a talker, and so it's turned out to be.
It's the Irishness.
There is a friendliness with the Irish people,
yeah,
of course.
So I was running gyms, and a girl came in who had a beauty college, and she was training 35 girls. And she goes, I need someone to train the 35 girls as part of their qualification. And I said, 35 girls? I'll do it, no problem, right? And I trained these girls, and I said, what do these girls do when they graduate the beauty college? And she said, a lot of them work on cruise ships. And I said, cruise ships? And she goes, yeah, we have personal trainers and spa. And 3 months later, I was on my way to Rome, and I was about to work on a cruise ship as a personal trainer. Right. But what I didn't know is it turned out to be a sales job. I was actually on stage every day teaching seminars with 4,000 guests a week. And it was ultimately a sales job. But after 3 months, I got a phone call. I was being sent to a new ship. Brand new ship, hadn't even sailed, was still in the shipyard. And I said, why am I? It turned out I was number one in sales out of 150 cruise ships. And they put the best salespeople on the new ship for the maiden voyage. And I found out I was good on stage, and I loved people, and it turned out I was good at sales. And in 2010, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Right, yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to go back on the ship. I'm going to start my own events and start my own sales stuff. So in 2010, I started running my own events. I'd book a hotel in my city, and I'd invite people to come. Now, at the same time, I was chasing time and financial freedom, but I also knew I wanted mental and emotional freedom. And that's what I work with most people, actually. It is the mental and emotional part that's the issue. And I started running my own events. And then I linked up with direct sales companies, and I ended up traveling all over the world, building businesses that way as a speaker, opening new countries, doing sales meetings, developing leadership programs. I did thousands of meetings every year, and I failed so much. And I realized I was actually coaching before I was a coach. I was obsessed with the mindset. I was obsessed with the psychology and the human behavior, combining with business. And that's how I was in it without realizing I was in it.
Yeah. So it kind of found you.
Absolutely. I think I was blessed to find, I think we all have, I call a business or a job a vehicle of expression. Right?
That's a phrase.
And that's how I define it. And I think the mission for me is alignment. When I meet young entrepreneurs or young people, say, what's your lane? And for me, I found my lane, which is a mix of that personal and the professional. And you have to find your lane. And when you do find your lane, you have infinite energy for it. You can do it all day. It's what you do best with the least amount of effort. I was blessed to find that early, but I chose it and I fought for it. And that's why I feel like, I've been doing it a long time. And I think that's the key piece.
Is finding your lane a bit like an ability to do a job and make it not look or feel like work? Is that what it is?
Okay. Yeah, because even though it is work and you end up working more than you think you do, I think you have a source of energy there for it, and that's why a lot of people struggle. They get burnt out, they get stressed out because they're building their house on someone else's land. And I think that's why the awareness and the alignment is so key. You have to seek that. Seek and you shall find. It's 2,000 years old.
You have some great phraseology. I have to give you credit for that as well.
Appreciate it. Bars for days, I always say.
You did well in sales. For anybody listening to this who is in business, who relates to sales in any way, and that's pretty much all of us, everything needs to be sold. What's the secret to selling? What was the secret to your selling success?
Again, what I noticed on the cruise ship, the Irishness helped definitely, but really was the connection to people. Being interested instead of being interesting. I tell people all the time, you got to be interested. You got to take from life, gather from life. And that's the key. Like for me, all business is conversations. Successful business is relationships at scale. That's all it is. And that's a lot of the work I'm doing with companies and founders. How do we simplify? I said, do you want to be big or do you want to be profitable? All these guys want to be big. And they add in systems and more salaries and more stuff. Just complex makes everything more complex. We got to simplify. Business is conversations. The truth for any business owner out here is higher value conversations with more influential people will open doors you can't open yourself. And everything else we add in just brings it back to conversations. That's all it is. Okay. So that's what sales is. And the other thing about sales is people have the wrong frame. A lot of the work I do is around the identity, the frame. A lot of times people think sales is something you do to people. But when you realize that sales is something you do for people, it changes the energy around it. And that gives people a lot more power and belief and confidence, and therefore your team can succeed faster. So there's a lot of leakage in companies, a lot of gaps for individuals and companies. And to me, I just see it because I've been doing it so long. They can't see it because the brain is just looking at what it always looks at.
Well, sometimes you're too close, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. What about, let me ask you about public speaking, because I guess a lot of what you do, whether you know you're doing it or not, when you're mentoring, I don't know, entrepreneurs or founders or whatever else, I know that's part of your business. There's a level of confidence you have to inspire, and not everybody is naturally confident. Confidence comes from, I guess, experience. It's partly innate, it's partly learned, it's partly copied. However you get confidence is fine. But how do you go about instilling confidence when it comes to having to stand in front of people? You stand in front of thousands of people, millions possibly as well. But that doesn't come without there are nerves.
There are nerves, yeah. And again, the frame is very important. For me, it was my gift from God. Like the first time I stepped on stage was my brother's wedding. It was 320 people. I was best man. I was 19.
There's a lot of pressure as a best man.
Unbelievably.
Yeah,
I was so nervous. I only had 2 dinners that wedding.
Were you funny though?
I was hilarious. Actually, turns out, according to the crowd anyway. But honestly, it was a defining moment in my life because I didn't know what I was doing at 19. I was in health and fitness. I was traveling. I didn't know what I wanted really. And I remember, out of 300 people at that wedding, 250 came up to me that night and said, you should be on stage. And I went around the whole night. It was a defining moment in my life. And how am I going to be on stage? I can't sing. I'm not that funny. I mean, that was funny, but it wasn't that funny.
People always say you're funnier than you are. Again, it's showbiz rules. The person in front of you love them. I mean, that's how it works.
And, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I ended up going into gyms and the fitness. But the stage, then I found I was up on stage on the cruise ship, 4,000 people every Sunday. Right. And the guy said to me, you told me this was your first day. And I was like, it is. He's like, there's no way that was your first time. I said, it was. So I knew it was my gift from God. I think we all have this innate gifts that we can emphasize and develop. But for me, the thing about public speaking, again, it comes back to the alignment. Like if you're in a job and you have to stand up in front of a team and talk about something you don't care about, the confidence isn't there. Whereas, clarity leads to confidence. If you have clarity on who you are and what you're talking about, every person you meet can talk about something. So that's the big issue, like getting in alignment. And the second thing, then there is different strategies, but ultimately, if you're speaking to a group of people, you got to treat it like you're speaking to one person.
Right.
You got to speak to one. And the other thing is what I do before I get on stage is it's never about me. It's always about them. The problem as a speaker, why people get nervous, is to make it about them. It's the same reason why people don't like going to networking events, why people are shy, because they're trying to be interesting instead of being interested. When I go on stage, I say, I'm just a messenger. Let me get the right message across. Same coming on here today. It's not about me. It's about them. It's about you. And if I can set that intention to just serve, because I think the secret to greatness is the service of others. Jim Rohn said that, my spirit animal. And I agree. Like everything is about service. And if you can do that, it takes the pressure off your shoulders. You're here to serve. You're here to give back. You're here to give away what you've connected. That's what you're doing right now. You're serving. And that's why you can do it all day. And if you're making it about you to get something, you're always going to suffer. I think it's pressure.
I take your point. I think much of it is about listening. And I think one of the things that we do as a species is we hear, but I question whether we really listen. very often, and those are, there's a distinction.
I'm with you. We're very aligned, actually, because, you know, in the coaching space, they always talk about active listening. And I think, again, it just sounds good. But for me, I call it listening like your life depended on it, because it does. Every interaction, every client, even in your relationship, listening like your life depended on it, like really being interested. You know, again, most people are listening to reply. They're not listening to understand.
Yeah,
You tell them, what did you do in the weekend? Oh, I went here. Oh, I went there before. It's great, isn't it? And they start talking. Where have you been? How long? I was in Glasgow. Oh, I've been to Glasgow. You know, so a very easy fix to that is just when you go to a networking event, when you go to speak, so not about you. And the more awake you become in life, the more you wake up to what's really important in this world, you realize you put others first and yourself last, you'll be first. It's just the way it goes.
It's funny. My mum used to say that to me for years. If I didn't hold a door open for somebody, she'd be like, "You're not the only person in the world."
Yeah.
And actually,
Values.
that's pretty decent advice, I think. What do you like at networking events? What do you like personally, and what would you like to be better at, or what would you kind of offer to somebody that's nervous about being at networking?
For me, again, just that, be interested, not interested. It's the simplest piece of advice, and it's for everything, whether you're trying to meet a new a husband or a partner, you know, a boy or a girl. Be interested, not interesting. Nobody wants you to come up and talk about yourself. You know, we call it fire hosing. You meet someone at an event, you say, "Hi, I'm Aidan, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm John, and I just started this business, and this is what we're doing. We can really help you." It's fire hosing. You're like, "Jesus, get away from me," you know? So if you're at a networking event, you know, for me, it's all about like just being interested. I believe everybody has a story. Like when I meet Tim, I wonder, what's Tim's story? We all like, and when you came in and you greeted me and you're interested in me, I feel good. I like Tim. Why do I like Tim? Because Tim is interested in me. That's why I like Tim.
Well, it'd be a dreadful interview if I wasn't interested.
Exactly.
I do try and listen.
Yeah, some don't, though. As you know,
I
in your
guess a lot of
space.
people don't.
But especially out in the world, everyone's trying to be interesting because they think their values. I got to be interesting.
Right.
So you don't. Just be curious. Curiosity leads to clarity. I always ask better questions. I'm a big fan of questions. You know, I mean, that's why I fell in love with coaching early on. Is, you know, questions are the answer. I always say the right question is the answer you're looking for.
Back to your phraseology.
Yeah, that's why I'm writing the book, you know, because I wanted because again, I started with borrowed knowledge, quoting everybody else I was reading.
Yeah.
For the last number of years, it's my own vernacular, and I wanted that with my name next to it. So that's why I wrote the book, actually. That's shameless plug, coming before the end of the year, please God. And I wanted, because my language, and I was like, I want my name beside that, because you stop quoting others eventually if you're doing it enough and you find your way of...
Well, what's your book going to be? What's the theme?
It's called Back to Me, and it's because I had a bit of an awakening about 3 years ago when I realized that we have to stop seeking everything outside of us. That's the source of our suffering, and we have to get back to me, the real me, the truth of me. So Back to Me is about letting go of everything that's not you, letting go of the stories, the beliefs, the patterns, the programs, letting go of non-truth. So you're left with truth. Because I think truth is the most powerful force in the world.
The truth's a lot easier to remember as well, isn't it? Lies
100%.
are tough to remember.
Exactly. But most people are lying all the time today. And I'm like, yeah, let's catch up. And then they never catch up. Or, yeah, we're going to do it. And then they don't. And people, I hate it. Like it's one of my values. I think truth is the undercurrent of everything. A healthy relationship. Oh, it's only a little white light. No, even a company, I call it a truth table. I make the leaders, very uncomfortable for the first half an hour. I say, this is a truth table, and you're paying me to come in here, you're going to listen to me. Everything goes on the middle of the table.
Right.
An hour and a half later, everyone's like, oh my God, thank God, I feel so good. Because everybody's talking sideways. Nobody's telling the truth. Like, let's get to the truth. So when you tell the truth, that's what Back to Me is about, getting back to the truth of who you are. So I wrote this book because it's not about thinking positive or setting goals or being disciplined. I don't believe in any of that, actually. I have a chapter in the book called Awareness Over Discipline. You don't want discipline for the rest of your life. You want awareness. Right. Awareness means I know what's for my highest good and greatest joy, and I choose that. And I say no to everything that's not that. That doesn't require discipline. That's awareness.
Do you hear phrases like, you know, the power of positive thinking and think...
Yeah, because there's nothing really positive or negative in the world objectively. It's just our desire for control. It's our personal preference. Like, it's a waste of time. This is good and this is bad. This is positive and this is negative. That's all our preference. Everything is as it is. And once you accept that, there's a certain surrender with that. Immediately you recoup energy and you replenish.
This is so interesting because we're having a discussion this morning before the show began, and I made a glib comment about acceptance being a really important thing, and we all kind of came to the conclusion that if you can accept you know, things every day, and if you get sick, accept that you have become sick, and hopefully you get through that. But acceptance is a really important thing.
100%. You know, everyone talks about self-love. I said, let's start with self-like. We're miles away from self-love. How do we get to self-like? When we trust ourselves.
Okay.
How do we trust ourselves? When we know ourselves. So how do we know ourselves? We ask better questions. We make less assumptions and less conclusions.
Okay.
The more conclusions you make, the less alive you become. When you say, this is the way it is, this is who I am, this is how things are, this is the way Dubai is, this is the way business is, this is the way my team are, this is the way my health is, this is the way my fitness is, this is the way my relationship is. The more conclusions you make, the less alive you become. We have to get curious. What's possible? Who am I? Where am I going? What can I do? How else can we do it? When you get curious, you start asking questions, everything becomes possible. And then you accept the acceptance is everything is as it is. What can we do now?
Wow, you're like the Irish Ted Lasso. Be curious, not judgmental.
I went from the Irish Tony Robbins to Irish Ted Lasso. My goodness.
Well, it's a development. Let's put it that way.
Is it? Okay.
Let me.
That's the Trojan horse, though. You see it now? That's the Trojan horse.
I've been swept along with that.
Because
horse.
when I go into the companies, they never expect this. When I go into an investment bank in London, they're not expecting this, but this is what they get. Because that's, for me, you can't have mastery. You can't have, like, everyone's a sticker, make me a better speaker, make our team sell better. You can't have that without this awareness and alignment and clarity. And that's why, that's my message. And that's what...
Yeah, I want to ask you about alignment. You've used the word a few times, and I want to know how you define alignment.
Again, like getting as close to your truth as possible. And that is like, how do you recognize what's true for you? What you do best with the least amount of effort. What you will do all day.
Right.
That even you wake up, you're tired, you're jet lagged, whatever, you can still do it. You know, what you've mastered, what skills you've developed, what hurdles you've overcome, what people know you for. You know, all of these things together show you your alignment, the truth of who you are, and your expertise, all of that. So like pain, there's things you've overcome that other people can't overcome. You've jumped over hurdles some people can't jump over. But it's so obvious to you, you think it's not valuable, because what's simple to you is mind-blowing to somebody else. So you actually have a lot more value to offer than you realize.
That's a really good point.
So if you combine, you know, things that you've overcome, skills you've developed, expertise you've built, and the stuff that really aligns with you, meaning you can do it all day with the least amount of effort, it feels like it energizes you. Now we're starting to discover who we really are. And when we do that, now we have something to work with, you know, and that's really exciting, I think.
I feel a lot better about myself now. Let me ask you, let's bring it back to the business arena for a second. You work as a consultant. You're known, I think it's fair to say, and you've just kind of outlined that, truth, clarity, performance. You can feel, I think is a phrase you use. You help founders, you help executives.
And individuals, by the way. Not to interrupt you. Like sometimes people think, oh, he only works with the big. No, I work with people at all levels, young entrepreneurs, people moving from career to their own business. So just to be clear on that.
It's a lot broader than I've outlined. Okay, so what you're trying to do is sharpen strategy. You want to elevate influence. I want to ask you about that. You want to drive performance, high performance results. Let's take those one at a time. How do you sharpen strategy?
So one of my principles, frameworks, is called the 95-5. And it's basically daylight robbery of the Pareto principle, right? Everyone knows the Pareto principle, the 80-20. 80% of results come from 20% of your actions. Nobody uses it. Everyone's like, I've heard of that. No one's using it. I've actually seen this in 90-10 or 95-5. So what are the 5% things that you do that move the needle? What are the 5% things that get the best results? And then the 95, we got to delegate, automate, or eliminate. That's how we strategize. What is the 5%? And if we do that throughout your organization, miracles are going to happen. We're going to let go of a lot of baggage. We're going to let go of a lot of leakage, and we're going to start getting into momentum. And most people aren't in momentum because people are stuck in the 95. So that's the short answer.
Okay, right.
I'm trying to shorten my answers.
No,
because I have a habit of giving long answers.
No, I appreciate that. Well, we'd have to charge us if you gave us a long answer. How do you elevate influence?
Influence, again, really about changing the identity around speaking first. You know, one of the things that blows I love communication and influence. I've always loved it. You know, in Ireland we have something called the Blarney Stone, which is in this Blarney Castle in County Cork. You might have heard of it.
You've spent some time there, I think.
And there's a whole mythology. You kiss the Blarney Stone and it gives you the gift of the gab. And we lined up when I was a child, about 8 years old, for like an hour and a half to the Blarney Stone. But you have to dip your head back under this rock on top of the castle. And I wouldn't do it. I refused after we queued up for an hour and a half. And since that day, my whole family says, thank God he didn't kiss that stone, because imagine how much he'd talk if he did, right? But for me, I love communication influence. Everything in the world that you want, other people have. You want to get married, find your dream partner, it's another person. You want a promotion, it's another person. You want to make a sale, it's another person. Everything you want, other people have. Yet nobody's working on communication. I go into companies, I say, people are paying for the description of your products and services. Like when I buy a house, I don't buy the house. I buy the description of it because I'm not living in the house yet. When I buy a product, I'm buying the description of it. So I say, what's the most important skill then? Everyone says, communication. Great. How much have you worked on your communication? 0. It's insane. Like, it's absolutely insane. You're wondering why you're not selling. You're wondering why your business isn't growing. It's because people don't know how to speak. They don't know how to move people with language. Right. And that's why you bring me in. I'll help you solve that. But at the end of the day, I can only shine the light. You have to walk the path. Yeah. That's the thing, right? But that's how we deal with influence. Let's understand that language moves people. And awareness, but you have to have the awareness for the language. Otherwise, you can just people go out and speak a script. It's not the same thing.
No,
you have to be
it's
able
not.
to feel it.
Okay. How do you drive high performance results?
A combination of point 1 and 2, Tim.
All right. Then.
Simple as that. Let's
simple answer.
Get clear on what works and what let go of what doesn't, and then master communication. All business is conversation. Let's figure out what we need to say and who we need to say it to. Higher value conversations with more influential people. It's just leverage. Like, how do we drive performance? We create leverage. We look for leveraged opportunities. We look for strategic partnerships. That's how we do it. Like, again, it's rocket science is just science to a rocket scientist.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's not.
It's very simple.
It's highly logical, but it's not as obvious as I guess you would like it to be.
Thank God, it's good for me. It's good for business.
Well, it is. We're at an inflection point, aren't we? AI is coming. AI is here. AI is going to be more and more important to us all, and you can see some of where it's going. We were talking AI on the program this morning with the UAE University of AI in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. We don't quite know how it's going to pan out, but what's your advice to keeping ahead of the kind of AI curve, if you like?
I have 2 thoughts on AI. One, I think we have to lean in, right? And we have to learn to master it. For me, I've had a lot of avoidance behavior. That's, people say procrastination. I think that's way too nice. It's avoidance behavior. You don't procrastinate the gym, you avoid it. You don't procrastinate going to bed early, getting up early, you're avoiding it. Right? So avoidance behavior is the main thing. I was always avoiding everything from social, from Instagram, from YouTube, because I said, I'll do it the old-fashioned way. And I left a lot on the table. Now, people don't know me maybe as much as they should because I avoided it. So one decision I made realize I got to lean in this time. I don't want to be missing. This is our time. We have to use it, right? So I do believe everybody should learn more about AI, think of the application for themselves, especially if they're in business. That's my first thought. The second thing, I think the antidote to AI is for people, there's 2 sides. One, again, that creativity, that human spark we have, that can't be replicated, right? We have to, that's more reason why we have to get in alignment. More reason to find out what do we do best with the least amount of effort. That's, if you're in a process job, AI can do that. But if there's something in your life that requires your creativity, that's key, right? So leaning into where that spark is, that gift from God, I believe. And the last part then is discernment, being able to discern what's real and what's not. I think that's key. And unfortunately, that's where most people lack, because even they don't know how to discern the thoughts that are real, the emotions that they feel, the stories that they have, the habits that they have. That's, the work I do with people is finding out what's real and what's not. People have to start with the discernment with themselves first. Like, what do I believe? Like, what are some of the things I haven't questioned in a long time? Because if you don't question your mind, that's what leads to suffering. An unquestioned mind leads to suffering. You have to question your thoughts, question your beliefs. Most of your beliefs, even the word belief has the word lie in the middle of it. Do you ever notice that? Because most people think they believe something because it's true. It's not the case. You only think it's true because you believe it.
Well, that's very true.
Right? So that's the thing, can we discern what's real and what's not? And when it comes to AI, then we have to be able to discern. And that's getting harder and harder to do, because I listen to a lot of Alan Watts and Jim Rohn, and now all these clips that come up, they sound like Alan Watts, but they're not Alan Watts. And I have to discern what's real. So I only look at videos that are 5, 6 years old now, because anything in the last 6 months. So that's my thought. Lean into your creativity, find your spark. I think we all have it. That can't be replicated. We have to discern what's real and what's not. Our discernment is that's going to be, you have to sharpen that now. And then the last thing is, use it where you can and develop yourself with it. Because it's here already. It's not coming. It's here already.
Well, it is, absolutely. And if whenever we get quantum computers, that next leap, it's going to take an exponential
Skynet
leap
is
again.
Becoming real.
Oh, I know. Well, that's always the worry, isn't it? But
it looks, you could say you're cynical, but I mean, the world is a dark place, unfortunately. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, and that's why I think we need to align with truth more than ever. Because if we don't lean into truth, we're leaning into the opposite, and I'm a believer we live in a duality. You can't have light without dark. You can't have hot without cold. You can't have up without down. So we have to accept, there's good and bad in everything. But we have to seek out the truth of everything. We have to seek out the light in everything. And I think that's our personal responsibility.
I had a feeling this would become a slightly more philosophical discussion this morning when you walked in.
Apologies for that if that's not the direction for your audience.
No,
keep it real.
It's genuinely quite interesting. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions to finish off about leaders and leadership. I was going to ask you about leaders and AI, but you've kind of covered that.
Yeah.
But just, this is a really difficult question. I'm going to ask it anyway. How do you define a really strong, how do you find a great leader in your experience?
So I always talk about leadership is the what and the who. A great leader recognizes what has to be done and who's going to do it. If you're a leader who's kind of caught in the weeds doing everything, that's not really leadership, So also leadership is from the front. You have to lead from the front. You have to demonstrate. It's a word I use with leaders all the time. Like, do you demonstrate your leadership? A lot of leaders, unfortunately, they live off their title. You know what I mean?
I mean, that would. I bet you people listening to this are thinking, my boss is not a leader, but they are my leader.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you're going to hear that.
Exceptional leadership is leading from the front. You can't push a wet noodle off a table. You got to lead from the front, right? So you'll remember now. It's a visual for you there. You can use it. I knew you'd like that one.
That's the best one yet.
Yeah. So great leadership. Again, it comes down to a leader needs to know what's true. A leader needs to be able to discern what's real and what's not. A leader needs to be able to identify what they know and what they don't yet know. Leadership need to be great with influence and communication. Most leaders, they end up trying to turn chickens into eagles.
Okay.
But what I think great leaders is sorting through the chickens to find the eagles.
Okay.
So otherwise you end up covered in chicken waste,
right?
I'm
with you.
So that's a big issue. You have to sort through. You don't need everyone. When I go to an annual conference, and I'm telling whether they're a group of franchisees or employees, and I'm saying, if you're not fully aligned here and fully empowered, you need to leave. And at first, the boss is always like shook. And I said, you don't want them. You don't need everybody. You need the right people here for your vision. And one of the main ingredients for a good leader is they have a big vision. They're visionaries. That's how you identify a great leader. A great leader will have a vision so big that other people's vision can fit within it, right? And that's why people join, whether it's Tesla or Apple or any of these big companies, or Google, why do people get involved? Because the vision is so big that their expression, their vision can fit inside it.
But it's not about liking them, per se, is it?
Not really. But
it's not really about that. It's about understanding, or understanding as far as you can, that vision, believing in it.
I think the values are key. It's like a personal relationship. I think the values have to align. So you mightn't like some of the traits of your leadership, but if they do have the right values, you're more likely to like them because you see in them what you have in yourself. Yeah. So when you see someone, you like them, it's because you think they have qualities that you have. Unconsciously. You don't think it consciously, but that's why you like them.
Yeah, that's
There's people you don't like, it's because you think there's something, but probably you do have it too, but you're denying that part of yourself. So that's a deeper psychological insight that we can explore another time. But, the most important thing, if you're going to follow someone, what are their values? Where are they going and why are they going there? Values are key. So that's what I think great leadership is. I do something called the law of leaders, great leadership. I love working with leaders. I think most people aren't leaders. They just have the title and they're not. A leader has to recognize that they don't know enough. And, they really have to. And that constant, really, discernment is very important, I think.
Well, humility is a quality lacking in a lot of leaders, I would guess, isn't it? But to be truly great, if you're going to lead a team, whether it's a business team or a country or, a football team, whatever it is, humility would be, I guess, a quality that you need.
Some of my favorite clients, they're so successful, but they have so much humility.
Right.
That's what I love. It's so rare. But in life, that's what we want to see. We want someone, who's humble. And humility is just saying, I don't know yet. And that's a strength. That vulnerability is such a strength. And people hear it, but it's really a strength, when you can lean in. And that's what I do in all my programs, all my sessions. I say, I know this because I suffer as much as you do. I battle with all this stuff. That's how I know it so well. I've done this. So I think we have to own that. And I think once we do that, it brings people closer to us. And people are more likely to follow us when when you acknowledge that you're flawed, because we're all deeply flawed.
Yeah.
So but if someone can acknowledge they're flawed, but they have a big vision, and they're being visionary is saying yes first, figuring it out later. Realist wants to figure everything out and maybe say yes.
Okay.
You want to be a visionary. You want to say yes first and then figure it out. That's what visionaries do. They don't know how they're going to do it, but they know they're going to do it.
Final question for you.
Okay.
You've worked with lots and lots of different people, as we've kind of outlined. But how many great leaders have you seen? How long have you been doing this now? 20 odd years, yeah?
16 years, yeah.
16 years, okay. So how many truly great leaders, really inspiring characters have you worked with? In all honesty.
Question, but I reckon I could count on real.
Is it like a one hand?
One hand
Count them on one hand.
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
Literally, yeah. And I mean, a lot of them have great qualities, but yeah, they're really. And again, one of the qualities I would say that stands out to me, maybe it's my personal bias, but when someone keeps their word. Because for me, that's a big issue in society today, especially in men, actually. Men want to be more masculine. And one of the most masculine things you can do is do what you say you'll do. And I think there's a real epidemic problem of that today, where people don't keep their word. It drives me bananas. I think when I see exceptional leaders, they're humble. They don't know what they don't know, and they acknowledge that. But they keep their word. They do what they say they'll do. They're not perfect. They're flawed. They make mistakes. But they do what they say they'll do. And for me, that's what makes truly great leaders. If you do what you say, if you follow through, if you stay committed, if you don't give up, and if you don't get talked out of it by somebody else. I think that's one of the main qualities, and I call it trust and adjust. You have to trust yourself to take the step, but you have to adjust. And great leaders adjust. They don't stop. They don't go back on their word. They stay with it, stay until the job's done. And they adjust as they need to, and for me, great leaders, they want to serve, they want to give back. For me to be more successful now at this stage of my life, the only way I can increase my success in all the different metrics is if I serve more people to a higher level. Because everything I do is relationship-based and it's result-based. So that's a kind of nice safety for me. It doesn't align with me to try and grow any other way. I can only grow through results and through acknowledgement of that I do what I say I'll do. And I think if everybody leaned into that, we'd have so much. And then if you lean into that, you know yourself. You don't want to convince anyone of anything then. So then you're just yourself. And we like people more when they're just themselves.
Yeah, that's very true. That word that we hear all the time at the moment, authenticity.
Authenticity.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to lean out of that for a second because I'm not going to keep my word. I said to you, final question. It's not my final question because you mentioned a word that people talk about and kind of bandy around willy-nilly, for want of a better phrase, and it's success. And success is so many different things to so many different people.
Yeah.
I don't know how you define success, whether it's financial or my kids are not axe murderers, or there's a whole gamut there. How do you define success? Because you're working with people who want to be in quote marks successful.
Yeah,
of course.
So there's a lot of different metrics, right? Like again, some of the obvious ones are the financial ones. That's a version of success. Having a healthy, vibrant, loving relationship is success. Having personal health and vitality is success. I'm going to come back. It sounds quite vague. I haven't figured out. I have some good phrases and good language, but I haven't figured out all the answers yet. But I do believe it's that alignment again. Like if you're moving towards the version of you, and that's what I think really success is. It's not what you get; it's who you become. Like everybody's focused on the having. We all want to have more, especially in Dubai, right? I want to have more money, have more income, have more holidays, have more stays, have more flights, have more. And if I asked you, what do you have to do to have more? What's the answer that comes to mind?
Well, the first one is clearly financial.
Yeah, but you have to get more financial. You have to
work harder.
Work harder.
More.
Exactly. That's where everybody's thinking. That's why they won't have more, or they'll have a limited more. You have to become more.
Okay.
Because if you become more, the doing shifts. The doing becomes more effortless because you've become more. So it's like inertia. Things at rest tend to stay at rest unless moved by an outside force. The force needs to have mass or speed, velocity, force behind it, right? So if you're like you 25 years ago, it took a lot more energy to move the needle than it does now because you've become more. Not just done more, you've become more. Right?
My wife would argue with you, but
right? But you see the principle, right? So
sure.
Everyone's focused on the having, and they think that the only way is to do more. So what do? They do more. Yeah. But if you focus on becoming more, what does that look like? Developing your mindset, which is 80% of it, and skills and strategy. If you become more, then what you do becomes more powerful, more potent, more focused. And then the having will become automatically, I call it the can't help it's. You can't help but have it. You can't help but succeed because you focus on becoming more. Then what you do is more efficient, more effective, moves the needle, more leveraged, and then you will have more. The money should be a byproduct of doing the right thing. The success is a byproduct of doing the right thing. Never chase the money. Become more valuable than the money. When you become more valuable, you can't stop the money. You can't stop the people finding you. You can't find the right people coming into your life. Everyone's chasing the wrong thing. That's why they're miserable. And that's why they need alcohol and drugs and shopping and eating and over-consuming. And then the world does a great job of giving it to you all day. So you're in distraction mode. You're asleep. You don't have awareness. You're in distraction mode. You keep consuming, thinking it's going to solve. It's not. If I can focus on the becoming, who am I? Where am I going? What do I want? What kind of life do I want? How do I serve? What are my skills? What are my gifts? If I do that, my doing will be from that truth. Now the having is just, I call it receiving mode. How much more beautiful is that? That's the key. That's the key. And the challenge is, Tim, no one's telling you this. You don't hear that on the radio today. No, you hear the ad for buy this, have that, go here, do that. Because the world wants you as a consumer, because then you need that. Whereas if you can become a producer and aligned and a leader of your own life, then you can have everything you want and more. That's success.
I think it's a big shift for people. I really do. I love the little mic drop there as well.
Has to be, because that's the truth. I'm very passionate about that, because I think the world keeps us in distraction mode and need mode because it wants us as a consumer. When you wake up fully, you don't need anything. You choose from your highest good and greatest joy. What do I want? And your wants go way down when you're fully aligned. The only time where our wants are high is when we're low on love, low on energy, low on acceptance, and we think all these external things will fill us up. But they don't fill us up. They're temporary.
I think you got another mic drop there. Just
yeah,
let
you
one
can
go
drop
for
it
a
for me,
moment.
yeah.
I'm going to do it for you. Do you know what? I'm a little bit cynical with lots of this, but I have to say I've really enjoyed talking to you, Aidan, today. I have. And
I appreciate that. Me too.
I feel like I've learned something. Aidan O'Brien is globally respected as a strategic advisor.
Can I drop in one little plug if this goes out before the weekend? Because I have my mastermind this weekend. Is that okay?
I'm very happy for you to do so.
It's in Atlantis Royal on Friday and Saturday, 21st and 22nd. So it might be a bit last minute for people, but it's called Life and Business Mastery.
Okay.
And day one is Life Mastery, and it's all the stuff we just talked about here. And day two is Business Mastery, where we get into the high performance, the leadership, and the influence.
Okay.
So if anybody is interested, they can find me on Instagram at Aidan O'Brien Official, AIDAN. They can just send a message, and I will happily squeeze them in for this weekend. We're almost sold out, but we can definitely make some room for some of Tim's best listeners.
There you go. Well, you are the other Aidan O'Brien. Lots of people will Google you and find the racehorse trainer.
Excuse me, he is the other Aidan O'Brien. That's why my website is theaidanobrien.com.
I knew you'd correct me on that, and you did it so well. I'll give you that. You know what? Love talking to you, Aidan. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Tim. Really a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
All the best for the weekend. Thank you for coming in. Aidan O'Brien here on Mira Business FM. Don't forget, you can find us on YouTube, across all the podcast platforms, on Instagram, on Facebook, there's a whole list. I'm not going to go into it now. But this is Mira Business FM.